All praise to the Most High, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rukakudash, and abundance to the apostles of James, and to the bishops, the elders, and all the sincere brethren that are laboring in the truth that of the world, and to all the sincere brethren and sisters that listen to the truth. And I pray this may be another edifying lessons to the flocks, and whatever the Most High want through this message that will be heard. And before I begin the lesson, I will introduce the true name of the Father, which is Yahweh, and the names mean He exists. And the true name of the Son is Yahweh HaMashiach, which means the Redeemer or the Deliverer. And He's only coming to redeem His people, which is the nation of Israel. And in today's age, you would identify them as the so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, and the so-called Native Americans, which scatter in all four corners of the world. And it looks like they're the nations, and also practice the custom of the other nations. And with that, that will be it for the introduction of the lesson. So today's lesson basically is Job 3. So let's begin of the lesson. So Job 3 says, or the title says, Job's lament. So let's see what it says now. At last Job spoke, and he cursed the day of his birth. So we learn what happened in the first two chapters. The first chapter, there was a meeting in the spiritual world, and all the angels, both left angels and right angels, sat with sat having a meeting with the Heavenly Father Yahweh, and Satan also was there. And basically, we know the first part, Satan attacked the Heavenly Father Yahweh allowed Satan to attack Job, but he couldn't touch him physically. And when in the second chapter, now Satan, the Heavenly Father Yahweh gave Satan access to attack Job physically, however, he cannot take his life. So now we see Job suffer, he lost his wealth, he lost his children, he lost his animals, and the second part is basically his health, to the point that his friend come to visit him and they were in sorrow. So now let's see what that chapter will say now, the third one. At last Job spoke, and he cursed the day of his birth. So basically Job finally talked, and he cursed the day of his birth. He said, let the day of my birth be erased, and the night I was conceived. And the night I was conceived. So basically, so what he says, like he said, let the day of his birth be erased. So basically, he said, the day that he was supposed to be born, he said that it's supposed to be, let it be erased, let it be gone, let it be perished. Let that day be turned to darkness. Let it be lost even to the Most High on high, and let no light shine on it. So basically, he want that day to be completely gone. He said, let there be darkness, like that day is not supposed to be exist at all. Let the darkness and utter gloom claim that day for its own. Let a black cloud overshadow it, and let the darkness terrify it. So basically, Job, because of all those pain and sorrow that Job was having, so basically he doesn't want it to be, basically he don't want to be exist anymore, man. He was like, cursed the day I was born, which means like the day that he was born, he wished that day never exists. That's basically what Job is saying. Let that night be blot of the calendar, never again to be counted among the days of the year. So basically, Job said that day that he was born, he said, let it remove out of the calendar. It's like when you in a month, whatever day you were born in a month, basically Job is like, that day, he hoped that day was basically never exist. So if that day was never exist, that means he wouldn't be exist as well. Never again happen of the calendar, never again to be accounted among the days of the year, never again to appear among the month. So not only the day blot out of the calendar, the month, but never, and also never appear in the month. Let that night be childless, let it have no joy. So let that night be childless, which means he wished that he wasn't even existing at that time. Let those who are experts at cursing, whose cursing could rouse Leviathan, curse that day. Let its morning stars remain dark. Let it hope for light, but in vain. So basically, that's what Job is saying. He said, "Let the stars remain dark. Let it hope for light, but in vain." So basically, like pray like God does. They hope for light, and there's no light. May it never see the morning light. Curse that day for failing to shut my mother's room, for letting me be born to see all this trouble. So basically, Job was like, so the best way I can explain it, Job was like, man, he's like, he's cursing that day for failing to shut my brother's room, which means like hope. I mean, he hoped that he never came out of his mother's womb. Like the day that I was born, he was like, why did you let me born that day? So basically, in a way, he was pissed. Cause he said like if he didn't if he didn't born that day, he would never see those trouble that he's going through. Why wasn't I born dead? So basically he starts questioning his life. He said why wasn't I born dead? Why didn't I die as I came from the mother's womb? So he's like, why didn't I die when I came out of my mother's womb? Because had he died, he wouldn't have all those trouble that he was going through. Why was I laid on my mother's lap? Why did she nurse me at her breast? Had I died at birth, I would not be at peace. So what Job is saying is like, why was I laid on my mother's lap? Because when you lay on your mother's lap, basically she's nursing you. Why did she nurse me at her breast? So basically she was taking care of him. Had I died at birth, I would not be at peace. So basically, say if he died at birth, he would be at peace. Why? Because he would go back to the spiritual world. Because this place that we're living right now, it is nothing but hell. Like when Christians talk about like hell, they thought hell is basically when we all die at the end of Judgment Day, we're gonna go on the bottom and be on the lake of fire forever. But what people fail to realize is hell is the conditions. Like right now, we're living in hell. Whatever pain and sorrow you're catching right now, man, that's hell. So Job is saying it is better to be dead. Because why? Because when you're dead, you'll be in the spiritual world. You don't have to catch hell anymore. So that's why Job was saying that. He said, had I died at birth, if he was dead at birth, I would not be at peace. He would be at peace because he would be in the spiritual world. I would be asleep and at rest. He will be asleep and at rest. What would that be? In the spiritual world, once again. I would rest with the world's kings and counselors. So basically, he will be resting with the world kings, basically ruler of the world, and counselors, whose great buildings now lies in ruins, and whose great building lies in ruins. What great buildings is talking about? Like it's talking about those places. Everybody. It doesn't matter what's your status in this kingdom, whether you rich or poor. When you die, you just go back to the spiritual world. You are at rest. I will rest with princes, rich in gold, whose palaces were filled with silver. So basically, you say we'll rest with princes that are rich in gold and whose palaces were filled with silver, which those guys were wealthy. Why wasn't I buried like a stillborn child? So once again, you say, why wasn't he buried like a stillborn child? Stillborn child is like basically a child that was born and died. I think they die while they're getting out, or they probably die a couple minutes or hours after the birth. Or sometimes they just die in the belly. Like a baby who never lives to see the light. Yep, okay, I was right. Like a baby who never lived to see the light. So which means the stillborn child is like a baby that died in the mother's womb. The mother pushed that baby out, but it was already dead. Never see the light. That means that spirit went right back to the spiritual world again. For in death the wicked cause no trouble. So when what was I again? In death the wicked cause no trouble, and the weary are at rest. So basically, wicked people in death, they cause no trouble. Why? Because they resting, and the weary are at rest. And those who are weary. Let's see what the definition of weary mean again. Give me 1 second. Weary. I know weary might mean tired again. I forgot. Weary. Yep, people are feeling or showing extreme tiredness. So those who are tired, they are finally at rest because they don't have to go to anything. And the weary are at rest. Even captives are at ease in death. So basically even prisoners are at ease. Why? Because they're no longer in hell. They're not catching they're not catching hell anymore. With no guards to curse them. So basically in a prison, when it's in prison cell, what is it doing? Is they're most likely slaving, because during the day they most probably have to do whatever work they tell them to do because they have no choice, because they have no power. And at night they sleep for a couple hours and wake up the next day, do the same thing again. So they're catching it on a daily basis. But when they die, well, guess what? They're at peace. It doesn't matter what status you are, whether you're rich, poor, free, and bond. When you die, you're all resting. No more hell anymore. Rich and poor are both there. Yeah. So in death, in the spiritual world, both rich and poor are there, and the slave is free from his master. That's what I was saying earlier. Like somebody said, the prisoner is basically like a slave, and the God is that slave master. Guess what? In death, the slave is not his slave is free for his master. His master can't tell him what to do. The slave is finally at rest now. Oh, why give light to those in misery? So say, why even give life light to those who are in misery, and life to those who are bitter? And he say, in life to those who are bitter. Why give life to those who are bitter? Those who are not living well, basically. They long for death, and it won't come. So people that are suffering, they long for death, but death is not coming. That is a brutal judgment, and we've seen that a lot. Sometimes people get probably get like in a horrible accident. People that once used to be healthy and able, and after the car accident, they probably paralyzed or in a wheelchair, and they don't want to live anymore because they can't function. So they beg the Heavenly Father Yahweh to take their life, and the Most High doesn't take their life. Initially, that's a judgment. So basically, when the people reach that state, they beg the Heavenly Father Yahweh for death, but it doesn't come. Okay, where was I again? They search for death more eagerly than for hidden treasures. Yeah, they search for death. Well, guess what? Death is not coming because they have to serve that judgment. They have to serve that time. The Most High doesn't want to take that spirit out of it. Because we've seen that when you watch soldiers, a lot of time that when they go to war, they were healthy and their limbs might blow off, half of the body might cut off, they might lose eye, and they're in constant pain. They have a mental trauma, and they're begging. Sometimes they try to commit multiple suicide, and they can never die. That's because the Heavenly Father Yahweh doesn't want that spirit yet. So he trapped that spirit in their body to endure that iniquity, to endure that hell. They search for death more eagerly than for hidden treasure. They are filled with joy when they finally die. So those people who are catching hell, when they finally die, they feel with joy. Because imagine somebody that's like in a vegetable state. Your body cannot move, you cannot talk, you cannot interact with anybody, but you can hear everybody. But when somebody talks to you, you can respond. Now imagine that person is there for 5-10 years in a comatose state, man. That is hell beyond hell. So when the Most High took that spirit away, that person is finally at peace, and they rejoice because they won't have to be in that state anymore. And rejoice when they find the grave, and they rejoice when they find the grave. Why is life given to those with no future? Those the Most High has surrounded with difficulties. So he's like, why does the Most High give those who have no future life? Why is life giving to those with no future? He say, why is life giving to those with no future, man? Those who the Most High surrounded with difficulties. So it's like, why does the Most High give people with no futures alive? I cannot eat for sighing. My groans pour out like water. Give me 1 second. Let's see what that word means again. Groans. Groan. A deep, low groan make a deep, inarticulate sound in response to pain or despair. So basically, Job said he cannot eat for sighing because he's in extreme pain. My groans pour out like water. What I always fear. Okay, where you at now? What I always fear has happened to me. What I dreaded has come true. So basically, what Job always feared happened to him. What I dreaded has come true. And let's see what the word dreaded stands for here. Dreaded meaning what regarded with great fear. So basically, his greatest fear happened to him. Basically, I have no rest, only. Okay, reload again. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest, only trouble comes. So basically, his biggest fear was catching hell. Basically, he said he has no peace, no quietness, because all those things that happen, losing his kids, his wealth, his possessions, animals, and now his health. So basically, all those give him no peace, no quietness. So he say he have no rest, only trouble comes. That's basically what Job says. So that's it for the lesson, man. I pray that was another edifying lesson to the flocks. And with the Most High, I want to do this message and let it be heard. And with that, I'd like to say, Shalom.